Birdland Tonight is your place for Orioles post-game coverage for fans by fans. All of the hosts on Birdland Tonight are Oriole fans that are either writing blogs or doing podcasts about Orioles. Head on over to birdlandtonight.com to learn more about the hosts and other shows and websites that they're a part of. And head on over to Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and subscribe, follow, or like, whatever the appropriate thing is, to Birdland Sports. Finally, share, retweet, and tell your friends about Birdland Tonight so that we're all joined into the conversation after every Orioles game this year. We'll see you guys in just a couple minutes. Head on over to the comment sections on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube to start interacting now. We'll see you soon. Did you know Birdland Tonight is also a podcast? Head on over to your favorite podcast app and subscribe to Birdland Tonight to get the audio of this show every morning ready for your commute. Thanks for joining us. We will get started in just 1 minute. Make sure that you have subscribed to us on your favorite social media. Look up Birdland Sports on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. Like, follow, retweet, share. See you in a moment.
Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
All right. Let's see. I think I've got a three-way setup. Perhaps not. Never done three people before. Avi, you might be a little bit cut out there.
It's all good. I can shift this way in my camera, I guess.
I guess so. I only have a limited number of templates to work with here, but The one that looks like it has 3 people on it was only showing me, so I think the Birdland tonight's a little bit in the way. But nonetheless, we've got an exciting Orioles game to recap here this evening. But I'd be remiss if I didn't wish you both and our listeners a happy minor league opening day. I am very much excited. We have a DL Hall Adley Rodriguez battery coming to us from Bowie. Well, at Bowie from Altoona for.
Who's Adley Rodriguez?
Did I say Rodriguez?
You did.
Ooh, Paul, you want to take this one over?
It's all right, man. I think everybody knows you mixed him and Grayson Rodriguez up, so we'll let that one slide.
I did. Grayson will be making his High A Aberdeen debut. Gunnar Henderson, another notable name, will be at Low A Delmarva. It's weird not having the Frederick Keys, but nonetheless, the minor league season's getting started. We're finally going to have some games, and Adley Rutschman's first full season as a professional. I'm very excited for that. Real quick before we dive into the Orioles game, any thoughts on the minor league season starting back up?
Man, it's good to see them back. That's it. It's real game action. I mean, we'll talk about Dean Kramer here in a minute, but talk about a guy who got thrown in the fold as a young kid without a minor league season last year, and then nothing really to boost it up this year. So he's just learning on the fly a lot against the Yankees. But I mean, it's exciting for guys like Adley, for guys like Grayson, and the rest of the group to get out there. I'm sure all the other teams are excited too, but I think it's just no better way to get these guys experience and get them ready to join the group in Baltimore, hopefully, than real live action baseball. So I think it's good for, and also the communities out there. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited. I actually went out and got that minor league TV thing. I put in the Shorebirds promo, $29.99 for every minor league game I can ever watch. It's going to be exciting. The Orioles are loaded at every level, and you mentioned Delmarva, you mentioned Gunnar Henderson. He's going to share that infield with Daryl Hernandez. He's going to share it with Jordan Westberg and Anthony Servideo, however you pronounce his name. And then they got Hudson Haskin playing center field. Adley and Grayson, along with Adley and Grayson at AA. Then you got Adley and DL Hall at AA. Then you got Grayson Rodriguez and Adam Hall at Aberdeen. It's gonna be an exciting season. I can't wait to get it started.
See, Paul, it's easy to mix these names up a little bit when you have so many exciting prospects in the pipeline, and it's certainly going to be a fun season as we get that rolling. But let's go ahead and talk some Orioles baseball. For a while, it looked like we weren't going to have much to discuss, and then the 8th inning happened. But we'll get to the offensive explosion late in the game here as we progress. But let's start off by talking about Dean Kramer. He spent some time at the alternate site after getting optioned just for some roster flexibility there for about 10 days. Missed one start, came back up, made another one. Wasn't great against the Yankees last week, but came out tonight and looked really impressive. Avi, what did you see from Dean tonight that you liked?
Yeah, I mean, Dean, fastball location was a little bit better, so we like that out of him. This is a guy who, let's not forget, I mean, we just touched on it. Dean Kramer was thrown into this Major League Baseball climate with no minor league season, so he's one of those. I mean, there's a handful of other prospects last year who got that and this year already early on. But, I mean, he comes out 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, not great, but and 4 strikeouts, which a guy like Dean's been averaging usually more strikeouts than innings pitched. That was pretty rare for him. But I'll be intrigued to see where these mechanics go. You know, Ryan, you and I was texting you about this a minute ago, but the guy comes out, he's got a good deep fastball. It runs both ways depending on what side the batter's at. He's working on some off-speed stuff. He faced the Yankees 4 out of his first 8 career starts. That's tough. I mean, we're not talking about the Yankees of a couple of years ago that were reloading and trying to figure it out. Like, these are fully stacked Yankee teams. And it's not to say that he doesn't have to succeed against them. Don't get me wrong, but that's a tough task. I mean, he's come out and really tonight just one pitch that got touched on. Tom Murphy down in the bottom of the lineup, and it was a fastball ran away from him. And honestly, good on Murphy. Good piece on it. But good to see Dean get out 6 innings, quality start. His first time going 6 innings since his debut. Just really intrigued. I mean, we've touched on a couple of the prospects otherwise, but he's a guy who's needed if they're going to build up this rotation in a couple of years.
Yeah, fastball to Murphy just caught a little bit too much of the plate there. I mean, it was a good swing on not a bad pitch. You know, I think Dean put it where he wanted it to. Might have run a little bit more on the inside, but 94 pitches tonight, 61 fastballs. Relied very heavily on that pitch. Avi, you mentioned he's able to move it both ways. He showed some really good life on that pitch tonight. He was consistently sitting 93, 94, even touched 95 a few times. But Didn't have a great feel for his secondary pitches. He did throw a really nice cutter to get J.P. Crawford swinging, a nice little backdoor piece there. I like to. He threw a 1-1 changeup to Kyle Seager at one point that darted down and away from him, and Seager swung and missed. But not a great feel for his secondaries tonight. But overall, Paul, a really nice performance from Dean Kramer.
Yeah, and as Avi mentioned, it's throwing strike one, man. It's having command of that fastball and getting ahead of hitters. When he falls behind, he's not effective, and we've seen that throughout this early part of the season. But like I said, he got strike ones. He was getting ahead of hitters. And what I really liked was seeing him give up that home run. You don't like to see that, but then he comes up and he falls behind the next guy 3-0, ends up getting out of the inning without any more damage. And Avi, you said he had two walks, which you don't like to see, but only had the one walk after the first inning. It was nice to see him have command of the fastball. Secondary pitches, like you said, Ryan, weren't there too much tonight, but he showed that he can compete at this level. And also facing a Mariners lineup that's only hitting 210 could be what the doctor ordered to get himself back on track.
And you could see a certain fire in his expression, especially after giving up that fifth inning home run. He really seemed to have that attitude of, all right, I made my mistake. Now let's go ahead and get out of it. And he came back and was really, really good after that. Now, it looked at the beginning like it was going to be a little bit of an show. We saw a couple strikes go the Mariners' way when Austin Hayes was at bat in the first inning. And then in the bottom of the inning, Dean did not get a couple calls that probably should have gone his way. But then he did get a couple, I don't want to say generous because they did hit the plate, but some borderline calls did go his way there in the fifth inning, despite him giving up that home run. But he really showed some fire. And I saw someone mention on Twitter the other day, and this was meant to be a negative comment, but I kind of want to spin it into a little bit of a positive here, if I may. Someone said that he's starting to see some Mike Wright traits in Dean Kramer. And that was definitely meant to be negative. But tonight I saw kind of that positive fire and that emotion and the energy behind his pitches. And that's something that Avi, I really like to see out of him.
Yeah, I mean, you can take whatever you want on Mike Wright. Mike Wright had some good outings as a major league pitcher, had a lot of great outings as a minor league pitcher, and some good outings as a major league pitcher. When it got to Mike Wright, it was a lot of fastball command issues. Mike Wright's a tall guy. Dean's 6'3", but Mike Wright's a big guy with some falling mechanics. And I'll be interested to see where this goes from here. We mentioned the one, if you call it a mistake, it's a mistake, but it wasn't really a mistake. The one that Murphy hit out, I mean, that's a good pitch to an 8-hole hitter. And really looking at the pitch chart for the night, I'm mostly concerned because he sat fastball middle to high in the zone. He was getting away with some, and you mentioned 93, 94. He was getting away with some, and it helps to face a lineup like the Mariners hitting 210, like you said. But he left some curveballs up. Fastball was leading up in the zone, middle of the zone. We'll take fastballs when they're strikes, but Got to get on top of that command a bit, push down in the zone a little bit. I'm a little worried he falls back coming through the release that we'll see what they work on. I trust the coaching staff there. They're working hard with him, and he's working hard, of course. But it's a fortunate outing. Half the time it's the mental battle, and he should hopefully take the positives of tonight and really run with that. I mean, it's you can't do too much more than come out and throw a quality start, late inning, late night game over on the West Coast, throw some things off, but. We'll take it because it's not the New York Yankees for once, and he needs some positive outings in his career, and hopefully this can jumpstart him to more of those.
Yeah, hopefully this is the start of a nice little run for Kramer. Now the Orioles have won 4 out of 5, 6 of their last 9 overall, and a big part of that, Paul, has been the performance of the bullpen. And we saw that once again tonight. Sean Armstrong faltered once again. He's had a little bit of a rough start to the season. He did throw 4 scoreless innings over his previous 3 outings before tonight. But aside from him, Sulser was excellent once again. Tanner Scott came in and limited the damage. And Cesar Valdez comes in with his 7th save of the season, now tied for the American League lead with Diego Castillo of the Rays and Ian Kennedy of the Texas Rangers. So, Paul, the bullpen has been certainly a bright spot to start off the year.
Yeah, the bullpen last year, they were a top 10 unit. As of this past weekend, they were a top 5 unit in all of baseball this year. I think you really see the work that Chris Holt and Darren Holmes are putting into this team and helping these pitchers find the best of their ability night in and night out. Cesar Valdez, he was crisper tonight than he has been in his last couple of outings. I was mentioning to somebody the other day that when Valdez comes in the game, it's amazing these guys ever even swing because the pitch never ends up in the zone. But all of his pitches ended up in the zone today, and you even saw that little bit of swagger after the one strikeout in the 9th inning, where he just kind of walked off the mound like, yeah, that's right. And that's what you like to see. You like to see Tanner Scott finding his fastball command again. He lost it for about a week there. Couldn't throw his fastball for a strike, and he seems to have bounced back from that. Sean Armstrong, you wonder how much of that was rust tonight, because for some reason he hadn't been used in 10 days despite being effective in his last 3 or 4 outings. He had only been scored upon once, I think, in his previous 6 outings. So he hadn't been used in 10 days. And then Cole Sulser kind of gives merit to the whole foot injury thing from last year, because he's been lights out all season to this point. This bullpen is, I think, the strength of this team right now, and they're going to need it because, aside from Kramer getting that six inning outing today, he and Lopez have had a hard time getting beyond the 4th inning. So that bullpen needs to be a strength, and so far they are.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit paranoid that I might have said Travis Lakins when I meant to introduce Cole Sulser, Sulser is obviously the one who pitched tonight, as Paul mentioned.
No, you said Sulser.
Okay, good. All right. I was worried that I might have mixed up some names once again, but we're good. So let's talk some offense. The bats were quiet for most of the game. There was a bit of an opportunity in the 3rd inning. The Orioles were able to load the bases off of Domingo Tapia, but for the most part, it was a bullpen game for the Mariners, and the Orioles just were not able to get the bats going. Of course, Tapia comes in the 3rd inning. He threw 20 pitches. They were all fastballs. The fastest was 98.7 miles per hour. The slowest was 97.5. So he came in pumping gas. Mancini comes up with the bases loaded. They showed a stat on Masson that Mancini's career numbers with the bases loaded are much worse than I thought they would be, considering the career that he's had up to this point. However, Tapia was able to run a fastball low and in on him. It was a really, really good pitch. Got Trey to chase, got the count to 1-2, and then Trey not able to catch up with a 99-mile-an-hour fastball low in the zone. But that was really the only real opportunity the Orioles had offensively until that 8th inning.
Yeah, I mean, I add that we talked about the Orioles bullpen there for a second and how good they've been. The Mariners bullpen, and you mentioned it, Ryan, it was a bullpen game for them. And their bullpen is throwing up an ERA that's a 3/4 of a run better this year than the Orioles. So they come in with the best bullpen ERA in baseball, and some struggles. That pitch to Trey, that's tough. I mean, that's filthy to see 99. That tips down and in on his hands. There's really nothing good to do with that. He made the effort on it. Otherwise, I mean, you could try to make a take there, but he really pushed himself there. But I mean, you talk about an offense that came up late. I mean, I sent the group chat for the show. I sent a message about things coming up scoreless in Seattle, and 10 seconds later, Cedric Mullins. Thankfully, this one went out of the park, but he comes up, and I mean, Mullins. I think he's being appreciated, but I think it's even more underappreciated just how solid of a season he's putting on, and how strong of a piece he is for this group. I mean, he's still tied 9th now in Major League Baseball in WAR at 1.3. He's strong offensively, strong defensively. I think my favorite part of watching him hit that home run tonight was actually that you had Valleca on first base, who had just walked before him, and they showed it in the replay that Mullins made sure to have Valleca hold up before going back to first when they were trying to figure out if it was a home run or not. We saw that happen with Cody Bellinger and Justin Turner on the Dodgers a couple weeks ago, where Bellinger, I think it was, crossed Turner's pathway on a home run that was being reviewed. One of them actually got called out on it, so they only ended up able to score 1 run on it. So thankfully Mullins made the right call there. Had Valleca just hold up until they made the right call, and they both scored there. But it's good to see that offense come up late if they're going to. But tough bullpen to face. Yeah,
I remember that Bellinger. That was on opening day. Bellinger hit an opposite field home run, and he hits the home run, but because he crossed Turner, he's called out and credited with an RBI single for a ball that he hit out of the park. Weird ruling. Glad to see Cedric being like, "Hey, let's make sure this thing was caught before you come back around me." That was a big play. Cedric Mullins. It's crazy to think that a guy like Cedric Mullins is in MVP conversations, but he has to be. If the Orioles are in first place, the person that you're looking at is Cedric Mullins. Just a jump starter for this team. Every single game, he doesn't go into slumps because speed doesn't slump. He could be 0 for his last 12, lay down a bunt hit, and next thing you know, he's 3 for his next 4. Mancini on that fastball, man, the 99-mile-an-hour fastball he struck out on, he had no chance. You rarely see Mancini late he was so late. He looked like DJ Stewart on that fastball. But look, the offense, they came out and they did their job in the 8th inning. Finally, the 2-run homer by Mullins, a 2-run homer by Galvis. That 1-2 combo at the top with Mullins and Hayes, and it seems like they just constantly push each other. Mullins gets a big hit, then Hayes gets a big hit, like they don't want to be outdone by each other. My big issue with the offense today, and it's not really the whole offense, and maybe I need to be a little bit easier on the guy, Rio Ruiz, man. The guy can't buy a hit. He's up in the 8th inning, and I get it. There's 2 outs, and I'm sorry, he's up in the 7th inning. I get it. There's 2 outs, 1 swing ties the game, but it's a 1-0 game. They're shifting on you the entire at bat, and there's not even I guess I get it. Bunting's not sexy. It's not a popular thing to do anymore, but they're shifting the entire at bat and no attempt whatsoever to get on base, just flailing and swinging for the fences on every pitch. He swings and misses at 3 straight pitches, and the inning ends. And to me, it's a selfish at bat. You're hitting $160. You haven't done anything worthwhile in a walk-off home run against Houston 2 years ago in your major league career. To me, it's like, do what you have to do to get on base to help this team, because then you see the next inning, Valleca walks to start the inning, and Mullins hits a 2-run homer, and the next thing you know, the Orioles have the lead. You have to do your part, and swinging for the fences and swinging through everything is not doing your part, especially when they're shifting on you.
Yeah, and I'll admit that I was one of the people who was kind of down on the Michael Franco signing in the offseason. I didn't think that he was going to be much of an upgrade over Ruiz. And, of course, we've seen them kind of split time with Ruiz playing at second base. But, yeah, at least on the offensive side of the ball, Franco has definitely been a significant upgrade over Rio. Like you said, he got off to a little bit of a hot start at the beginning of last season. But other than that, the only real notable thing he's done on the offensive side of the ball was that walk-off home run against Houston. So certainly frustrating to see, but as was the case with Hanser Alberto and Renato Nunez and some of these other guys, I don't think Rio is meant to be a part of the next competitive Orioles team. And I hate to say that about guys we currently have, because I'm always going to root for them, but at the same time, you have to look at it realistically, and Rio's not going to be here. I think he might not make it through this season at this rate.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if he does make it through this season. I think once Jahmai Jones gets his footing under him at second base, he's going to get a lot of time there, maybe sooner rather than later. And I think that if Ruiz doesn't start hitting, he might not make it to the end of this month.
Yeah, I was going to add on Ruiz. I mean, he's seen less than 40% pitches now in the strike zone. Guys, they're not pitching to him because they know he's swinging at so much. The problem with him, when I was looking at him a couple of days ago, is he's swinging at a lot, both in and out of the strike zone, but it's not about what's out of the strike zone. He's only making contact with barely over half the pitches he swings at in the strike zone. So if pitchers are realizing they can throw a ball anywhere, he's going to swing and miss more than half the time at it. It's a pretty rough spot to be at. I mean, they slot him down the lineup. He made the good defensive shift tonight when they announced with DJ Stewart having to sit out as the weight scratch. So Valleca went in, and then Ruiz shifted over to third. So it's good to have those defensive guys. It reminds me of a good old Cesar Torres kind of guy that comes in and can hold the fort down on defense. But outside of that, there's not going to be much provided with the bat, and that's tough. It's tough to give up. It's tough to give up a lineup spot to a guy that isn't really providing much, where you really don't have a high hope that this guy's up in any spot he's going to come through. But you take what you can get while you're waiting on a couple of these guys down in the minors that now their season's up. But we'll see if they have a guy or two that can come up and take that place. And of course, with some of the injury guys too, he's one of those filler roles that's going to have to be there for a bit.
Yeah, there are certainly some names knocking on the door, whether it's Jahmai Jones or Rylan Bannon. Even Stevie Wilkerson might come up and get another shot. But Rio certainly has not been the answer thus far in the Orioles lineup. But let's talk about some of the positives of that 8th inning. Avi, you mentioned this before. What did Pat Valleca do before Cedric Mullins homered?
Took a walk.
Paul, what did Ryan Mountcastle do before Freddie Galvis homered?
Took a walk.
That's so important. I love seeing that. I love when guys get on base via the walk, like a bunt. It's not sexy, but it gets the job done. And when someone comes up behind you and knocks you home, you can't ask for much more than that. I love seeing that. The Orioles have struggled at drawing walks this year. It has not been a strength of this team. There have been plenty of games where I look down through the box score at the end and we've walked once or twice or not at all. And when we walk, we win games. That's been a consistent trend throughout the year. I don't specifically have the numbers on that, but I know that in the games that our offense has exploded, we've walked 6, 7, 8, 9 times in those games. Very, very important to see that happen. Now, Avi, I wanted to talk to you about a little bit more about Cedric Mullins, because I'm sure you remember this. Probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago, you were writing for Baltimore Sports Report,
Yes,
and you were, I guess, on the other side of the country. Maybe you were in Boston. I'm not sure. You've been all over the place. But you asked me to go down to, or go up, I guess he was in Aberdeen.
Mhm.
And I interviewed Cedric Mullins for a profile you were doing. And I had no idea that he was any type of prospect at the time. I just kind of asked him the questions that you wanted me to ask. But now we see him coming up. And like Paul said, you can't ignore that if the season ended today, he's probably not going to win, but he's in the MVP discussion.
Yeah.
And so how cool is it to see someone like Mullins, who, you know, we got a chance to chat with years ago when he was a low-level minor leaguer, seeing him come and tear up the league.
Yeah, I mean, talk about a guy that I have been on from day one, and I'm proud of. So, I mean, Cedric Mullins came to us from Campbell University, so down in North Carolina. They're a D1 school down in the Big South Conference, but he was a 13th round pick, and the guy comes up. He's 5'8", little guy coming up. Switch hitter. They're not sure if he can hit for any power. We're still not really sure if he's going to hit for much power, despite the home run tonight. But a guy that can run the gamut. I mean, you talked about it. Speed doesn't slump. So he's coming out. He's playing a stellar center field. He's running the bases. I mean, even you saw late in the game when Austin Hayes hits that dribbler up the third base line that Seager grapples, and the umps were confused of whether it was a fair or foul ball, and you had Mullins going from second to third, and he would have been safe if that ball was safe on that quick little dart run. So I mean, it's a guy that comes with a lot of skills. Obviously, his on-base skills are going to lack a little bit right now in the walk department. We talk about walks, but he's hitting for a high average. I mean, that's an old school form of baseball. You know, slap the ball around, try to just get it somewhere, get it in play, get on base. So, you know, the team, like you mentioned, it's tough to see him not walk too much. They're second to last in the league in walk percentage, but a guy at the top like Cedric Mullins that can get on base in other ways, it's helpful. And I mean, the guy is as wholesome of a guy as we think back to. Ryan, I had that article open earlier. Again, I've opened it a couple times in the last couple months, and I love looking back at it, because that's, like you mentioned, that was 2015. We talked to this guy, 13th round pick, that I was excited about just from where he came from. And who knows if he'll be an all-star this year. I mean, the interesting note there is he's a kid from Georgia, and so if he makes the all-star team, it won't be in Georgia anymore, where his home is. But we hope for the best for him to make the all-star team. It's fun to watch, and we'll see what he can develop power-wise. He's still pulling from the legs. He's a small dude, but guys have done it before, so it's really intriguing to see this call up. We talk about Austin Hayes so much, and for good reason, and we have lots of other guys that are being talked about, but Cedric Mullins really sort of blazed through the minor leagues in a couple of years and just keeps hitting, and that's what keeps him here.
Yeah, it's great. And Paul, one other guy I did want to mention, his 7-game hitting streak was snapped tonight, but Ryan Mountcastle did walk and score a run in that 8th inning. And some of those hits are starting to fall. We saw him hit a lot of deep balls to the warning track. He just couldn't seem to really get a hold of one. But those fly balls are starting to turn into line drives, and we're seeing him start to get on base a little bit more. And that's hopefully the start of a trend for Mountcastle.
Yeah, the 7-game hitting streak was snapped, but he still has a 10-game on base streak.
Yep.
And you're watching this guy, you're watching him play, and you're seeing him get an infield hit here, seeing eye single there, a line drive to right field there. And then the next thing you know, he's building this hitting streak. He's regaining that confidence. And Brandon Hyde said before the game today that he doesn't think that Ryan Mountcastle's lost confidence. I don't believe that. You don't go 1 for 28 and be a confident hitter. But he is trusting his swing, trusting his ability, and putting the bat on the ball. And I think that you're going to start to see the power really start to come through here sooner rather than later. Also, and he didn't look overmatched at any point today, which is something I really like to see. Even though he took the 0 for today and he did get the walk, he didn't look overmatched at any point. And that's a good pitching Seattle ball club. Ryan Mountcastle is going to be really, really important to this team, not just this year, but for the next several years. He's going to hit the middle of this lineup. And this is a guy who has never faced adversity playing baseball. He had that bad stretch when he got called up to Bowie a few years back, but then where he hit 222 to end the season there over the last, I think it was like 30 games. But he came back and hit nearly 280 to 300 the next year. So this is a guy that you have confidence in the fact that he's going to start to hit. He's going to be a force in this lineup. Right now, it's just singles and the occasional double. You're going to start to see that power really come out here soon. Gets the barrel of the bat to the ball when he's really going. Has power, sprays it to all fields. I'm really excited to see what he becomes. I think we're going to see it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and Mancini's been hitting the ball hard as well, and I think if those two can really get it going, I mean, this team's just going to continue to improve. And like I said, 4 out of the last 5, 6 out of 9 overall. We have hit our half hour. I hope I didn't wake up my girlfriend. It is 1:30 in the morning after all. Tomorrow, the Orioles' second game of the series in Seattle. It'll be Jorge Lopez against Justin Dunn. I will be back on the postgame show because I'm a night owl and I figured I'd sign up for the late games because why not? I'm not entirely sure who will be joining me. You both are obviously more than welcome back if you happen to be awake. Orioles beat the Mariners 5-3 and are starting to feel it a little bit. Gentlemen, anything to add?
Yeah, man. Real quick before you go, something I noticed. Remember how the Orioles were striking out 10 to 15 times every game? It seemed for like the first 2-3 weeks of the season. They haven't had a 10 strikeout game in 10 games. It's been 10 straight games where they've had 9 strikeouts or less. And so I'm really starting to like their approach. You mentioned the walks and how all the good things are happening for this offense when they have multiple walks in a game. You're seeing a better approach at the plate. And yeah, they came into this game batting .228 as a team and second to worst in the league with 3.8 runs per game. But that number is going to continue to go up. They continue to have this better approach and these better at-bats. I'm really liking seeing the strikeout numbers go down. I think that's huge for this team moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good note. Avi, what's your final word?
Happy minor league opening day.
Hell yeah, I love it. All right, we'll be back again with you tomorrow night post game, and thank you all for tuning in to Birdland Tonight.
Thanks, man.